Okay, so what I'm talking about today is the Schleiffen Plan, and the Schleiffen Plan was created or designed by a general named Alfred von Schlieffen, and he was a German general. And the reason for the Schlieffen Plan was for Germany to pass through Belgium to get to France and to wipe out France before they had to fight Russia. And this was during World War One. And Alfred von Schlieffen wasn't the one that commanded this to go down, and he actually made it in 1905, but World War One didn't start until 1914. So Germany goes over to Belgium, and Belgium is a neutral country in the war, and they don't want anything to do with it. And so they pack up and they go through Belgium, and what they didn't think about was the UK had a treaty with Belgium where if Belgium got involved in war or anything like that, they would protect Belgium, and they would protect them, and it was called the Treaty of London. It was signed in 1839 by London or Great Britain and Belgium and some other countries, but that's not important. And so the UK came in and they stopped Germany from going into France, and that created a big problem because Germany didn't think of that. And so some reasons why Germany did not win the war was because there were all these new weapons, and they didn't really know how to use these weapons or fight against these weapons, but they were creating mass death and destruction. And these two new fronts, because Russia caught up, because Germany did not think that they would catch up with the time, because they were not a very militarized or modern country. And so the reason why the Schleiffen Plan failed was because in 1915, Germany torpedoed three merchant ships from the U.S., and this set the U.S. off, and they joined the war, and that just created even more problems for Germany. And also, the British or the UK had a colony in India, and these soldiers were Indian, and they were called sepoys, and they were also attacking the allies of Germany from the southeast, and they were the Germans were part of a group called the Central Powers, which consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire does not exist anymore because of the war, and Austria-Hungary also does not exist. They were split up straight into Austria and Hungary. And so there was actually this really interesting occurrence during 1914 on Christmas Day where the French and the Germans had a truce, and there was this place in between the British trenches and the German trenches, and they came out and they would just play all these sports, and they were having fun on the 14th, and there's actually a movie about it. But anyway, the main reason why the Schleiffen Plan failed was because they didn't plan for anything to not go their way. They thought that they could just go through France, beat France, and they would be done, and they would just move on to Russia, which would be not even a challenge because they were just not very strong, and they were going through tough times by themselves. And the reason, another reason why the Germans lost the war was because they were fighting from almost three fronts, because the French and the British and the U.S. were on the east, and the Russians were on the west, and they also had Austria-Hungary right under Germany, and they were also being attacked by India, which just created a lot of tension, and they were really stressed, and they just couldn't take it anymore. So they milked it as long as they could, and they just couldn't do anything. And it's funny because Germany didn't even have as many deaths or casualties as the Allies. Great Britain only had about 220,000 people, or 220,000 soldiers killed in what, 2 years, and Germany had about 81 or 181,000 that were combined casualties or killed. So Germany really only lost because of default, and they just didn't want to do it anymore, and they didn't have the supplies left to keep going on with this war.